The Isle of Man TT has always carried a reputation that is both legendary and terrifying, a place where speed meets danger on roads that refuse to forgive a single mistake. It was on those very roads, during the 2026 Isle of Man TT, that Maria Costello MBE, one of the most respected and beloved figures in motorcycle road racing, suffered a crash that left her paralyzed. The news sent shockwaves through the motorsport world, not just because of the severity of her injuries, but because of who Maria is: a pioneer, a trailblazer, and a woman who has spent her entire life proving that the racetrack is not just a man's world. Her crash is not just a story of tragedy. It is a story of courage, of resilience, and of the kind of spirit that refuses to be broken, even when the body is left unable to move. Maria Costello was not born into motorcycle racing. She grew up in a small town in Northern Ireland, where racing was not something women were expected to do, let alone excel at. But from the moment she first sat on a motorcycle, she knew that this was where she belonged. She didn't let the doubts of others stop her, and she didn't let the barriers of tradition keep her off the track. She fought her way into the sport, race by race, season by season, and earned her place among the best road racers in the world. Her achievements were not just about winning. They were about breaking barriers, about showing young girls that they could ride, compete, and succeed in a sport that had long been dominated by men. She was the first woman to win a race at the Northwest 200, the first woman to podium at the Isle of Man TT, and the first woman to be awarded an MBE for her services to motorcycle racing. Those titles were not just honors. They were statements, declarations that the sport had changed, and that Maria Costello was at the heart of that change. Her crash during the 2026 Isle of Man TT came at a point in the race when the track was still wet, when the grip was uncertain, and when the margin for error was razor thin. Maria was riding with the same focus and determination that had defined her entire career, pushing the limits of what she could do on two wheels, trusting her skills, and believing in herself. But at one of the most dangerous sections of the course, her bike lost traction, the rear wheel slid out from under her, and she was thrown from the motorcycle at high speed. The impact was violent, the kind of crash that leaves no doubt about the forces at play. The safety crews rushed to her side, but the injuries were severe. Maria was airlifted to the hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize her. In the days that followed, the news came. She had survived, but she had been left paralyzed from the waist down. For fans watching on television, the crash played out like a blur of color and noise. The camera caught the moment her bike left the ground, the moment the barrier flashed past, and the moment the dust and smoke from the tires filled the air around her. The grandstands, which had been a roar of cheers just seconds earlier, went quiet for a moment, as if the entire crowd held its breath, waiting for the first sign that the rider was okay. In that silence, every watcher knew that Maria's life was hanging in the balance, and that the difference between a career-ending injury and a fatal crash could be measured in inches. What happened next is what made the crash more than just a moment of violence. It became a moment of grief, of hope, and of admiration. What happened in the days and weeks after the crash is what defines Maria Costello not just as a rider, but as a person. She did not give up. She did not let the news of her paralysis define her. Instead, she began the long, grueling process of rehabilitation, working with doctors, therapists, and her family to rebuild her strength, to learn how to move again, and to find a new way forward. She spoke publicly about the pain, about the fear, and about the uncertainty of what the future held, but she also spoke about the hope, about the love of her fans, and about the determination to keep fighting. Her words were not just about survival. They were about resilience, about the kind of strength that comes not from the body, but from the heart. For the motorsport community, Maria's crash is a reminder of the risks that come with the sport, but it is also a reminder of the courage that it takes to step onto the track. She was not just a rider. She was a symbol of what is possible when someone refuses to let the world tell them what they can't do. Her paralysis is not the end of her story. It is a new chapter, one that will be written with the same courage, the same determination, and the same spirit that defined her entire career. The road ahead will be harder, but Maria has always been built for hard roads. She has always been built for the long fight. If you've ever felt the tension of a close racing battle, if you've watched a rider risk everything on the edge of control, or if you've admired the courage it takes to step onto a motorcycle at 200 miles per hour, take a moment to acknowledge Maria Costello's effort and her resilience. Please like this video if you found her story moving. And if you're someone who follows the lives and legacies of the athletes who risk everything on the track, consider subscribing to this channel. Together, we can keep remembering the people who push the limits of speed, skill, and courage, one race at a time.